All right.
Woohoo!
We're live. Oh, geez.
Are we good? Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Fine.
Hello.
All right, let's see if it's time to start.
Oh, that's just gratuitous right there. Look at that.
Yeah, definitely time to start. Yeah.
You son of a gun.
Let me see. Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Sitting waiting for it to go live with that thing off camera. So
Yeah, you'll notice I had it off camera the entire time.
Just waiting, just waiting.
Damn it!
Shut up,
I paid
guys.
$175 for this son of a bitch. I get to flaunt it.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey,
hey, Tyler.
Hello.
how are you all doing?
Doing all right. How about you?
Pretty
Right.
good. Just got over a cold.
Oh,
That sucks.
So the general theme we've done before is we have done basically the staff summary. We address known issues, so we're not going over issues that we already know about. And then we hand it over to you guys. Does that sound like a plan this time?
All right, Captain.
Aye, Captain. All right. So get this. So let's start off with the basics. There are known bugs. The two known bugs are the ones where if you sink, you get a fuck ton of a particular resource. And another one where people lost all their items. That was a global bug where everyone lost their items. Most likely what we're going to do in response to that is to in response to that, we're probably just going to go through and force the computer to give everyone their starting equipment. And if they're missing anything, I'm going to blank all the equipment and not the resources, just the inventories. And I'm going to assign everyone their starting equipment again. And if anyone has any new stuff that wasn't on their starting equipment, they'll just message us and we'll fix it. That'll be the thing. There's also, related to the resource problem, there's a the problem with the biometrics going completely out of whack. The technical explanation what that is that it takes an event in your log that is trying to apply, and instead of applying all your different changes, it applies that one time, that over and over and over and over again, and it gets locked into doing that one. So we need to fix that bug. So you gather yams, and that dehydrates you, and you did 20 other things. So instead, it acts as if you gathered yams 20 times, and tanks out everything, but gives you like 120 yams, right? Instead of all the other shit you did.
Okay.
Yeah. Which unfortunately also, if it does that, it fucks with the achievements and things like that. So, but those are beta things, and that's just part of the beta thing. Let me see here real quick. Make sure everybody. Did anyone post to the event that we got started? Nope. Okay, so other known issues. What am I forgetting here, Todd? Tyler? Oh, Todd.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't there at game.
Yeah.
those were the app issues that I heard about. Just the inventory and the resources stuff. I didn't hear about any other issues as far as the tech goes, but and the biometric. But y'all already know about all of those, so I don't know if anybody heard of anything else happening.
All right, just to go over some other points for the GMs before we turn it over, so you guys can talk about what you heard and other concerns you had. First off, this game was amazing. We had 60 people.
I'm so sad I missed it.
We're sad you missed it too. A single tear run down your cheek.
I'm not sad at all.
We had a moment of silence because you weren't here. That was terrible. I know. You caused such pain. And we also missed like our Femforcers and all the craziness. Yeah. Welcome to the gun show.
Stop flexing. You didn't have anything to show off.
Oh! You're my neighbor. I'll come fight you. You're across the street.
Oh, go
You're my
rowdy
neighbor.
on her.
You're my neighbor. That's why I can say these things.
Challenge.
I believe
Yeah.
it's the gun, Tyler. You might want to. You might want to.
He's just hiding behind his blue collar at this point. Eesh.
You're not a synth all the time, Tyler.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
You're not sent
Brady,
out of character.
you guys
You're not
listen
immune to
time she gets
violence
mad.
out of character. Seriously, don't threaten the sense of violence. Don't be a douche. Except for to Tyler, who's actively being a douche at this point.
I deserve it.
Yeah. Douche reciprocity. That was fantastic. The only other thing that really has come up is that there seems to be confusion about downtime roleplay, and I will offer my clarification on this. The ban on that it has existed since Alpha 2 on decision making and political movement between games is still in effect. Now, what that means is that you cannot show up at the game site and say, all these things have already been decided because we discussed them online. And you can say, okay, well, we're taking the algae vat because we decided that we're doing that, right? And you just have like a rush to complete a whole bunch of things that have already been decided when not everyone was in on it and it was not a game situation. That is not allowed. Now, factions making plans, discussing possibilities, going over things like that, that is 100% allowed. People have been doing it for a while now. However, there is no walking onto the game site and everything is already set up and pat and all that. No approvals are given, no final decisions made until game happens. And that's the way it's been for a while, and that's the way it will continue to be. We have a whole bunch of new players, so they need to be informed that this is the norm in a lot of games. I personally seen it a lot in vampire games. I know it is in other games where downtime politics is like an all-consuming endeavor. We are making it somewhat impotent in order to keep it from being something that people with actual day jobs have to deal with on a regular basis. There's actually a term for this in game design now, which is called the time aristocracy, where somebody can afford, for whatever reason, to spend a ton of time plotting or engaging in game stuff. And there's debate on whether that's a problem or not. In Planetfall, we are treating it as an issue, and that where we want adults who have day jobs to be able to play this game comfortably without having to dedicate a great deal of their time to monitoring IC movement and behavior. So we don't want it to be an all-consuming thing. So for this reason, we put in these limits. And if we see people that actively trying to manipulate the situation, we will put it into it. We have put it into it before for very good reason. Where people, just to give full context for that, for new players who might be watching, we had a set of players decide that they were going to divvy up the town in the first week after a game, and they were signing contracts and making all these deals and deciding that, all this has already been decided. We put a stop to that because they were basically speed playing in the downtime in order to come up with a whole bunch of set decisions that didn't give most people a chance to respond in character. And the only way they could have done that is if they were keeping up with massive, huge downtime posts, which is not something which most people with time on their hands don't do. It's certainly something I don't want to deal with, and I'm running the damn thing because I have other cool shit to do with my life. So I don't want to damper on anyone's enthusiasm. I think plotting, like a little bit of plotting, a little bit of scheming, a little bit of getting your shit together is perfectly fine. When it gets to the point that you're taking things or imposing things on other players that aren't involved, that's when you've crossed the line, and that's when you have gone too far. And I think I can trust everybody to know where that point is. All right.
Just
Sure. Hello.
Sadie?
oh yeah. Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag. Just to clarify, things like brainstorming or just kind of throwing out ideas are okay, but concrete plotting or making decisions that affect other players is not okay.
That is not okay. Because we don't want someone walking on the game site in January and getting sandbagged by the fact that everything they were working toward, or what they were planning on working towards during this game, has already decided months ago.
Yeah.
And there's all this other role play built on top of it. We don't want that. That is not something we want to be about, because it sucks, and it puts you in a position where you can either have a life or have your LARP life, and I don't like that conflict. And real life takes priority, and we will take steps in the way we organize ourselves as a community to make sure that that's true. And Sadie, you're breaking up. Sadie, you broke up.
Yeah? Oh, sorry. I support this.
Tell Ryan to stop downloading porn.
He's not even here.
Well, disconnect his computer in order to shut off his porn torrents. Don't you know how good the porn game is? I mean,
he's got to start now, man.
Yeah. You know, start thinking with your virtual Y chromosome there and figure out what he's doing. You know, he's not here. Obviously, he has his porn regimen going on his computer while he's not using it.
And
okay?
Welcome to the Planetfall meeting, everyone.
You know a little too much about this, Matt.
Oh, Todd, don't give me that innocent smile.
Highly informative. That's what we are.
All right. Glenn is just sitting there going, yep. All right. So that covers all the issues. I'll be back in like 30 seconds real quick. I need to take a quick pause.
All right, so counselors, and especially Sadie, who was there at the last game.
You're our point man, Sadie.
I try.
Have you heard any complaints from players or anything that people have issues with?
One of the big things that people have talked to me about is that even though the XP expenditure isn't really a thing yet, people are concerned that certain actions and certain skills generate a lot of XP and others don't, especially more role-play heavy characters or people who are doing a lot of administration. You know, they're not racking up XP in the same way that someone who is a miner or an engineer is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's true. There is not really a good way to get XP out of administration yet, because it doesn't actually have actions that you take in the game yet. I think, okay, Matt's back, so he can elaborate on this more than I can, but I think maybe administration will start doing more stuff once the downtime game is active, maybe?
Yep. Like the very act of being in charge of a community gives you administration points, like during downtime.
Yeah, just general concerns about skills not really having any mechanical effects yet, like, for example, mathematics or guarding, you know. These are skills that people have and spend points on, but then they don't really have mechanics in the game yet, other than role play, which is great. But then people are concerned about not getting XP or not being able to use them in the same way that you use other skills.
Well, let's be real for a second. The various logging and syncing issues have screwed up the advancement thing so ridiculously at this point anyways. We're probably going to blank the entire thing and just give, like, based on how many games you have, give you a bucket of just wild card points that are going to be cooler than the points that you got originally because they can be spent on anything. And we're probably just going to do that and say, okay, thanks for playing, thanks for putting up with us. Here's your bucket full of quarters, right?
That'd be cool.
And that's probably so. Like, people who are Alpha 1 are going to get more than people who are Alpha 2 and Alpha 3, and we're just going to assume there's, like, you got. I'm not going to. Don't hold me to these numbers, but it's like you get 1,000 points for every game that you put here or whatever. And that's just going to be flat, right? And that's because we all are buddies when it comes to that sort of thing. That's probably how we're going to handle this. And there's some skills which aren't going to come into play until there's the downtime game, like guard, administration, and intrusion. Are ones that are explicitly going to be downtime stuff, and that's just a patience. I just have to beg for people's patience when it comes to that. It'll be cool once it works, I promise. There are a few instances in which we can put in, like, interim actions to help with that. Like, we could have a generic guard action to give people rewards for sitting there and watching gates and stuff like that. Make a guard post thing similar to the way we do resting places. And we can do that in the interim. Guard is intended for once the downtime game is done, you can guard a location, and the more time you spend doing that, the more secure it is, and that means it's harder for people to get into it and steal from it or sabotage it. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be also something intrusion. Administration is similar, going to be like that. Leadership is also going to somewhat be like that. Obviously, there's some balance that needs to go on there. I do have to say a thing about. Are you going to ask about mathematics?
No.
Okay. Because I was going to say about mathematics, there are some skills which we consider to be enhancement skills. We basically have three types of skill patterns that we have. One of which is we call the grind. And the grind is when you have a skill that's really cheap at the very beginning, and the successive layers of it, like easy to learn, hard to master, right? So like hunting is an example. Hunting is, or firearms too, is very cheap to buy the first level of, and you go up and it gets really, really difficult to get. You get like gradually decreasing returns on it, where you have to spend more and more time and experience to get better at it. And that's to reflect the kind of skills that are like that, like hunting or firearms or fishing, where I can teach you how to fish in about 5 minutes. I can teach you to play chess in about 5 minutes. You can spend your entire life trying to master it. Then there's what we call gateways, which are like Science 1 is a gateway skill, where everything behind that skill is much cheaper, but there's this big skill right at the middle, which represents like this giant commitment that you've made to get the basic skill set for this. And that's like, that kind of guards specialties, right? Science 1, Engineering 1 is one of those things. On top of all that, there's enhancers. And enhancers are skills which do very little on their own, but are necessary for advancement in a lot of different other things. Like mathematics is good for, you need it for hacking, you need it for, various levels of engineering, you need it for all sorts of different stuff. So what it represents is that if you want to get good at something, you have to learn this ancillary skill in order to support it. But because you learn this ancillary skill, now you have this ancillary skill which supports other things, and it kind of pushes a player to want to get skills that are kind of drifting in the direction that they're going, that aren't necessarily directly related. So you have a pattern of knowledge stuff. So There are skills which don't do anything except for open up other skills, but they open up many skills at once you learn them, and that's the design principle. So,
Hey, Matt, I got a question for you.
well,
So-
Sadie had the yes, definitely, but Sadie had the next question.
Oh, gotcha.
I just had a quick question that's kind of related to the downtime stuff. So you talking about the downtime game that's eventually going to happen, is that going to require a large time commitment though? Is it going to favor people who have more time to commit to it?
That is a very good question, and we're specifically designing it so that that is not true. We're not doing the Farmville thing. What we're going to be doing is here's the basic thing. Basically, at a set time, every single 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever, you get an allotment of time, and you can bank those all the way up till next game. You can completely let it lie fallow until 2 days before the game. But basically, once per week, you get, once again, don't hold me to numbers, but you get 100 time units. And you wander around and you decide how you're going to spend those. You go explore this, you discover this, you do all this other sorts of stuff, you guard this, and that changes the game world when you do that. Because of that, you pretty much get this block of stuff that you just spend 15 minutes a week if you feel like doing that. You could spend all your points the day before 3 days before the game or whatever, and you would still have 95% of the benefit of the downtime game. The only situation in which you would get any advantage for camping on the server for when the time units hit is, one of the things is there's going to be an overworld map, and if you explore an overworld map, there's a percentage chance that you discover something. And if you discover it and no one's claimed it, and you have the skills necessary and the slots open, you can claim it as your own. The only situation which you would get better would be if you, by blind luck, and there's going to be 30, 40 things in every single menu slot, map square, and you have a 1% chance of discovering one of them or whatever. So you find one before somebody else does, and you get to claim it when theoretically they might have found it beforehand. But there's also going to be a pretty good chance no one finds what you find. So that would be the only situation in which just camping on the server and doing all that stuff. So we designed that with the idea that, you can do the downtime. You can either ignore the downtime thing entirely, or you can just do it all in one sitting or whenever you feel like it. It's not going to be this giant commitment. And because it's automated, it doesn't have that aspect to it. Does that sound okay?
Yes, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Because I've been there, and I got shit to do with my life. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have a fantastic wife thing and a stepdaughter and 2 cats and a dog and all this other shit I have to do and a mortgage to pay. So, I'm not a 19-year-old.
That's not important, Matt. That's just really not our number one priority.
So, it's I'm not a 19-year-old college student who's busy failing classes anymore. I don't have time to do all that shit. And I like that we have an older, more mature player base. We got kiddos. Don't get me wrong, but we have a very wide span.
College student.
What was that?
I said not that there's anything wrong with being a college student.
No, but even fucking college students know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm way too busy.
Yeah.
Way too busy.
Yeah.
I'm graduating in less than 2 months. Oh, busy.
Yeah. Well, you're like a senior, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have life ahead of you. I'm talking about the freshman LARP player who hasn't determined their major yet and is taking basket weaving or whatever. We know, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Don't tell lies to Matt. Don't.
I only took basket weaving once, okay?
why do you fail basket weaving? That's what they give football players.
Okay,
idiot.
let's talk about.
I think Clint had a question.
Yes, Clint had a question.
Yeah, I had a question. So I think a lot of the players are really interested in the downtime game and an advancement. I was wondering if you could paint a picture for us on kind of how you're prioritizing different developments of the game, and if you know of any estimated timelines for those developments.
Okay. We are definitely working on that sort of stuff. In fact, I have it on a fine piece of paper over here. It's a beautiful piece of paper. I'm not letting any of you see it. Where we're working on the downtime action. Obviously, bugs are the first priority, right? I had to. Obviously, I need to preserve some of my sanity. I do work 9-hour days, and I can't work on it every night, especially after the development crunch I went through in the last 3 weeks. Obviously, we had to put a stop to a lot of forward development. The reason for that was, of course, we had to completely redo the app, because if we're going to support anything more advanced going forward, we just had to pull the trigger, kill that horse, and get a new one. That has been done. It has been done to my satisfaction that we now have a clean code base so that we can start moving forward. One of the good things about having a clean code base that people can understand is that we can now move forward in getting the technical team up and running and actually in there developing with us, rather than it's just falling to me and Riley, mostly me, because Riley has been dealing with his very successful puzzle business, which I do not begrudge him at all. Because Perplexium is awesome. So we have a few planned features for the app. During the game, we want the app to only be active during actual game times. That's a big one. We want some administrative stuff. One of the good things that came out of this game was that we had the GM app, which made things so much simpler when the actual IDs worked. Speaking of which, cue to programmers, if you're going to use underscores for delimiting in a code, make sure your IDs don't generate with underscores. Pro tip for Uncle Matt there. We want to revamp the website to include like links to the tickets, have the schedule on it, have links to the forum. We want stats to drop when active during game. That's probably a stretch goal. None of these are in order priority. We want there to be new types of actions. We want there to be actions you can only ever do once, such as many of the science things. We want there to be continuous actions where you sit there and you just mine until you tell it to stop, and then every second or so it goes to some, you have a 0.5% chance of getting something, and so you just have this continuous stream of chances to do something. We want to include the ability to have mini-game-based actions where instead of, well, either they're timed and you can have things come up that, like, let's say you're doing a medical procedure and you get, it pops up with something where some sort of mini-game that represents you, doing something, right? And that, like, cuts the medical time by 2 minutes or whatever if you complete that fast enough. We want to be able to do stuff like that, and we also want to have actions which are completely based on that. Like, just to keep on the medical thing, I want diagnostic medicine to be, something like push the flashing circles as quickly as you can, right? And you sit there and you tap on them, and then when you've done that, it's done, and it represents, like, the medical scan activity in some kind of abstract fashion. And it's just however fast you can do that determines how quickly you can diagnose the victim.
And finally, my useless button mashing skills become useful.
Right. We want to do things like being able to give people codes that launch other actions on other people's devices. Like, big one is investigation. We want to have an action where you can actually search people. So what we're going to do is say you cannot ask to look at someone's inventory or their resources anymore. That's not allowed. What you can do is you can ask someone in investigation to pat the person down. and then that person, the enforcer or whatever that's doing it, gives the person a code. That person scans the code, and then it displays based on their investigation versus whatever scoundrelly skills they have, what that person finds on them, right?
Would that correlate with like the stashing kind of stuff?
Exactly. Yeah, so that's what we're planning on for app features at this point. The other thing that we want to do is expose the skill and character creation and the the construction catalog is one of the things we want to do on the website, so that you can look at things and say, okay, to build a generator, I need X, Y, and Z.
Oh yeah, the giant crazy web of madness.
Yeah. There are going to be things that are hidden that we're not going to expose and are discoverable. But that's just going to be a choice we make. But for general, we want to get rid of the conversation that we have all too frequently of how much of this do I need to do that, and replace it with just that. And just say, look at the universal universal schematic catalog, or whatever the hell we call it, right, on the archive, and it'll tell you what you need. Same with skill certifications and things of that nature. As far as the downtime game is just turning into a freaking sink. I put like 20, 40 hours into it every single between games except for last time, and it just takes for fucking ever to make work right, because this is multiplayer. It's basically its own little multiplayer game, and I hope to have a version of it up like at least before the March game. But it's become such a continuous frustration that, combined with the existing bug issues, it's become one of those when it's ready situations. I am still actively working on it, and I hope for everyone's patience on it. And we're making some forward progress. Obviously, all that halted this development, the development sprint between the last game and the game before. But that's the timeline is soon, before summer, hopefully.
I know people are definitely excited about the between game actions, and they're excited about the app looking all shiny and awesome and having these new features. But one thing that I've definitely heard people wanting is the ability to get new skills, as well as, teach new skills, things like that, to enhance the actual role play and ability to do new things.
Yeah.
Is that something that's on the list?
That is definitely on the list. Character advancement is on the list, and also being able to keep track of your skills, having a log of what you did between games. There needs to be included in the revamp of the website. There's going to be a redo of the character screen where we have a lot more information for you to access and see what people are doing. And like things like sufficient levels of administration will allow people to just access your logs for you if they're in charge of you. Yeah.
Oh no.
Awesome! I think that's so awesome, because it gives people that are doing administrative things and leadership things really a good hands-on view of what they're doing, and I think giving those people that are more RP intensive and less like action oriented things to do is really, really important, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of the skills, like I've heard some players say, well, you could just do that on your own. And I was like, yeah, you could do that on your own. You could spend all this time keeping track of what everyone's doing. Or if you buy a skill, it makes somebody who doesn't have that amount of time and isn't that anal an expert administrator compared to you. So I think that's an excellent simulation of the skill. This kind of like trade is going to give you the ability to just see what people have excesses of.
Mhm.
You know?
People can just lie to you in role play, but if you have a special skill, character.
Right. And there's probably going to be something where you can hide stuff like that if you're a good liar. If you're there's plenty of chances for being sneaky.
I would never lie to you, colonist.
Shut up, Adam. So, any more questions as far as development goes? Okay. So, let's move on to you guys' experiences and what you want to put on the agenda, and yeah, it's your show. Go for it.
Well, I kind of already talked about some of the things that players had talked to me about. I guess, yeah, I'm talking, so I guess I'll start. I had a really great game. I had a lot of fun. I felt like I accomplished more this game than I did last game, and I heard that same sentiment from other players. So I don't know if it's just because the app was working better or people were more gung-ho or what. I don't know. But I basically had a great time despite all of the mud. It really wasn't as bad as everybody thought it would be, I think. But yeah, it was Medina, and there were lots of new people who were really excited and actually immersed themselves in the world and got involved in projects, and I thought that was really great. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of really good players, and I really, really think that everybody's work in promoting the game, getting the word out, really has to be thankful for it. I didn't know these people. I had no previous contact with them, and what that says to me is that that wasn't just people showing up at my game because I asked them to. It's because you guys are getting word of mouth out and getting out why this game is cool to all the right people, and I want to really congratulate. I mean, obviously, you guys, the player council, have done a lot of that, but just in general, the player base has been very, very good at basically speaking to the positive points about this game, all that. Speaking of which, one thing that I did want to bring up, and I think that the player council and the staff needs to come up with, and I'll just say this once, and everyone should understand what I mean by it. We can talk about how good we are without talking about how bad anyone else is. Okay? Are we clear?
Absolutely.
Good.
Has that been a huge issue as of late?
It has happened 2 or 3 times, and I have said something, and everyone has complied. There's been a few nudges there, and I just think that that's unnecessary on many levels, and I don't think it helps anyone to establish that kind of tone within the community, or with a relationship with any other members of our community, because we just don't want any geek on geek violence. So let's not do that. All right.
Absolutely.
Those who pretend to be different people on their weekends for fun should not throw stones. There's plenty to make fun of.
Not real stones anyway.
Right, lightest touchstones only. Maybe Nathaniel's fake brick.
Yes.
Is still the best weapon we have is the fake brick. No. Anyways,
Do you mind me asking has this been like LARP on LARP or like character on character?
LARP on LARP.
Okay.
I will not illuminate.
You don't have to give any details or anything.
Yeah,
you just
it's not
know
details.
What category.
Anyone who was involved knows exactly what I'm talking about. Everyone who was involved was talked to and stopped.
That's good. I mean, that's good though. That's good that they have ceased of that behavior, because it could be worse and they ignore that. So that's good that they realize that that's not
right.
good.
And we just don't need that energy. not to get
Right.
too heavy about it, but
We're all nerds.
we don't need that to fuel us. We have plenty to go on, and we're going to have our problems too one day, and I really hope that other communities won't, take advantage of the opportunity to bitch about, let people bitch at us. So,
Mm-hmm.
and if we're going to, we have to be the change we want to see in the world. All right. So, what kind of feedback have you guys been getting from the players? I mean, normally we'd go around and get all of your feedback about how the game went, but we just got it from everyone who was there, unless Sadie has more to add.
I mean, mostly it seemed like people had a really good time and really felt like they accomplished some things. We're getting to a point where role play is becoming a little bit more intense between the factions, which I think is good. And the things that I heard that could be improved is that people really want to be able to advance their characters. They really want to be able to get new skills, and they were a little bit concerned about the difference between getting XP based on different skills that just get used more, which we already talked about. Another thing that a few people had mentioned to me was some site safety concerns, which mainly there were broken bottles, and I assume that that's because of the flood, but
Yes.
that's definitely something that I'm concerned about. Like, I came across several broken bottles that I had to clean up, and especially, when people are role-playing and they might be falling on the ground, someone could really easily get cut up and hurt. And I noticed beer bottles around, and I know that we don't have drinking at the LARP, and obviously the site punks can do whatever the heck they want, and they do an amazing job, but that I do worry about things like broken bottles as far as safety goes.
Yeah, but having been there out there on Friday, what it was is pretty much they were having a big barn raising just to get things ready for us. As far as the broken stuff, I mean, the place was trashed, and like the wind, like roof sections were missing and stuff, and things got knocked over. I know one person found a broken bottle, which was actually part of a lamp that had gotten smashed. So I'm assuming that happened because of the storms. I'll mention it to the site punks that there was a lot of broken glass. As far as like the beer stuff, I actually know where that came from, which is the fact that they just had a bunch of people out there that they bribed with beer to get things ready, and it just I'm willing to cut them a lot of slack this game because the fact that we were even able to hold the game there was fantastic compared to considering what it is. But I will definitely bring it up with them. That, I mean, you saw what Jimmy looked like. He had been running on probably about 3 hours sleep.
Yeah, I know they did a ton of work, and
Yeah.
I know that they were talking about maybe moving to a new site or getting new land. And I don't know if we have any updates on whether or not that's happening. Or
You will know the moment I can tell you anything. I have not heard any updates on that, other than they are waiting to save. They're thinking about buying like 5 acres of land. Then they realized if they saved up a little bit more money, they could get like 2 or 3 times that, or not very much more, in a better situation. And that's the last story I got. So it's probably something which the soonest is going to happen is over the summer. And I'm going to definitely keep an eye on that. As I said last game, if the game grows exponentially and we get into like over 100, we're going to have to face the fact that the site is going to be small for that. I have some contingency plans if that is true. There's obviously camps like Tex Lake and stuff like that we can approach if we're having that level of attendance. We can afford that. my position is though that Jimmy and them have done immense amount of work for us, like specifically for us. They have allowed us an incredible amount of leeway in what we do with the site, and they've contributed. They've NPC'd for us. They've been fantastic to us. So if we reach the point where we are forced to not use the bayou until they get new land, and I'm going to say this again, the moment they do, we're back there immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But if we get into the 120 players sort of range, then we're going to have to look at moving to something bigger. Either some Girl Scout camp, one of the larger airsoft milsim fields, something that's much more expensive, but can accommodate that is sitting on like 20, 30 acres, right? That is, that's just reality. But at the end of the day, we're a Devil's Bayou game, and we're going to stay there as long as we can. The moment if we can't, the moment we can move back, we will.
I think we all support that decision because they've done a lot for us, so we want to support them too.
Literally, Planetfall wouldn't exist without them because we were able to play on their site initially for $5 a head, which that's like $100 for a 20-person game, and that's a ridiculously cheap amount to run a field LARP for 2 or 3 days out. So that got us through like the first 2 games of our alpha. We're only at the level of attendance that we could even consider getting like renting a site because of that, and that's like an immense help to all of us. And the fact that we weren't able to come up with this game that was completely weird and no one knew what it was about, and pretty much the only people who were attending were people who were innately curious early adopters or people I knew or were only one step above me. And now we're getting to the point where we have good feedback and word of mouth, and we actually have the level of attendance. I can even begin to say we might look at renting a Girl Scout camp or whatever, and that wouldn't have been possible without their help. So I couldn't sleep at night if I just said, nope, time to go someplace else, and just walked off. I would be the biggest dick on the planet, and Guy and Jimmy would be perfectly justified in kicking my ass if I did that. So I'm not. That's not even in my mind.
Yeah, and that's definitely not what I want either. I just felt like I needed to bring up the fact that there were some safety concerns that not just I but other people had, and I think the flood has a lot to do with that because I saw the pictures. It was.
Yeah, and to be fair, every single time I've come up with a safety issue and I've walked up to Jimmy and say, okay, this is an issue. Previously there was an issue where someone else had left construction materials out, and by construction materials I mean like boards with nails sticking out of them. If I saw that in game, or the day before the game, and by game day it was cleaned up. So they are very responsive to that. They understand exactly what they're doing.
Well, one thing we could do is we could get some volunteers to show up at the site like an hour early before game, just to walk the site and identify hazards, pick up things like broken glass and such. I mean, that's something we could do if we think that's a concern that folks have.
I think that's an easy thing to add to our prop layout or rollout too, where people are placing codes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're gonna say? What is it? Say it here, Emily.
Oh, I was gonna say, we could also do things like cleanup days the week before, the weekend before. That's not something.
Obviously, that was impossible the weekend before this time. Come out in the hurricane weather, guys. Bring up a trash bag.
We could definitely do it, like, especially the day before, because I know a lot of people come in early anyway for the LARP meetup, and when we don't have the LARP meetup, the black boxing and all that kind of stuff. So we could definitely get together a group of people to go out the day early or the day before and just sweep the site. I'd do it, yeah.
I'm always out there at least for a few hours the day before the game. That's when the QR codes go out, hopefully, so that I don't have to be there at 6:30 a.m. putting those things out because it takes a ridiculous amount of time. So that's perfectly possible, and I'm sure no one will object to that. I will say, however, this is the first time we've really had a major issue with like glass and like hazards on site. So I don't remember us having an issue with that before, really, unless I just didn't notice it.
I haven't noticed any.
Yeah. Your show, guys. What we got?
Look, I've been talking a lot. Y'all can talk.
Hey, this was a Sadie Hawkins show. Neither myself nor Emily were at the game, so I mean we didn't have a lot to say. And you know, I put the word out on the Facebook page for folks to ping us if they had any comments or feedback, but I didn't receive anything. Emily, did you?
I did not receive any, but I did notice on the event page, somebody posted a question about kit bonuses, and like mining kits, for example, mining kits giving a time bonus or reducing physical requirements, or the possibility of proficiency modifiers. The more you use it, the less it hurts you.
Yeah, that's in the Q&A too. I don't know if that's might be the same person, but it's also posted in the Q&A. So maybe we could.
There are a lot of actions that require kits like that in order to perform them. I believe that there's certain mining things that require a mining kit in order to actually be able to mine them.
Yes, there are, and also there's ones in which having better equipment. The general assumption is that you have a tool, just because people show up with wrenches and stuff like that, and we don't say you don't have a tool. But if you have something like Tero's mining rig is a really good example. Tero's mining, it doesn't reduce time, but his output goes through the fucking roof, especially with things that are like the salt or the limestone deposit, because it blows through that shit, right? So we will definitely be having, as the game develops, like better and lesser versions of kits and equipment that will have variety effects on things. Creating that content takes a lot of time, and once we have core features complete, well, we have the core features complete. Once we have like all the cool like new stuff and new developments put in, we're also going to start looking at, especially as we start offloading more work and rule stuff over people going in who are dedicated just to coming up with that kind of structure and making it so that we have all those fiddly bits where you can get bonuses and things like that. The other thing I'm going to do is we're going to make like what gives you what bonuses a little bit more transparent as things go on. Obviously, in the quest to completely redo everything, in the time it takes to do everything, we didn't have time to make that transparent like that, but we will soon. Let's see, other stuff. XP differences between people who can do bulk actions and those who can't. I'm not sure what that means, Teresa.
Yeah. Right.
I just messaged Teresa to clarify.
Okay.
We're calling Teresa out.
Yeah, Teresa, come on. Come on. Come at me.
I feel like this is the question that we talked about a little bit earlier about the difference between people who are going and mining or you know doing their metallurgy like for just hours and getting all of this XP, and then versus people who are using more role play heavy actions that don't necessarily have mechanics yet where you can rack up XP, like a lot of the administrators, but I could be wrong. So.
Well, you'll notice that hammering out steel gives you like 5 advancement points, and dissecting an animal for science gives you like 500.
Well,
So
it's not that
we
big,
look at.
but
Shush. I'm not saying it's exactly that. What I'm saying is that there's like a magnitude difference.
The more advanced the skill, more points they get back.
The more often you're likely to use it.
the less
Like,
you get.
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
So we
Mining-
try to.
There's no requirements for it, and you can just hit the code as many times as you want and do it all day long if you want to. Gets a smaller amount of XP per minute invested than a task that you can only do once per game, but it requires a unique QR code, like dissecting an animal or something.
Right. And we take that into account. So
That's good.
we have like a maximum, like a target rate of advancement for people, and that's why things like leadership and stuff like that, they give you more points than banging away. So Ryan is sitting there, just to use an example, he's sitting there banging out shit all day long, and Tero's out there mining shit all day long. And at the end of the day, what should happen is he gets roughly the same XP as someone who did science all that day, but their stuff came down to about 4 or 5 tasks. But they came out with, he had to mine 20 times to get 100 XP. They had to. That's like half of the advancement points for dissecting an animal or finding some new thing, right? And there's also the issue, and this is something to really keep in mind, is that not all advancement points are created equal, especially for different characters. A character who is interested in science is not going to be helped by mining AP at all. What they're going to be helped for is science AP and genetics AP and the thing that they're looking for. So that's the other thing that's different than a traditional large XP setup, is that, yeah, I could go out and mine, but it wouldn't actually give me anything I want, right? I have to go do the thing that I actually want to grind on, right? The thing I want to actually do. So
how would you transfer that with the skills that are mainly downtime action and the mini game oriented? Because we do have a lot of players that have just mainly downtime action skills, including myself.
It would probably. I was gonna say it'd probably be easiest to do it per time unit invested into it. For like in the same vein as it, like you get experience for however many times you mine, you get experience for how much time you're putting into you're putting effort towards it. So as long as you're willing to administrate, and you have the time units, you can get administration points.
And downtime, yeah, and that's effectively how you know. And there's also downtime AP. Like a downtime only thing will produce more AP than something which can be used in both places. So like the guard AP, if that was a downtime only action, right? That would give you more guarding AP than it would, because you're not expected to get AP in guarding from doing that. There's a lot of balance issues here. The other thing is that we are going to probably implement like a set AP award, or like generic AP award that you get for attending a game. It's not going to be like as big as it is in some games, whereas that's your major reward. But there's going to be this guaranteed amount that's wild card points, which basically says, look, if you got screwed over and you couldn't like get AP for any one particular thing, you still have these points that you can put towards to it and that you can save. And that can be used on anything you want, right? Just represent your fucking around time. And you're also going to be able to put like time units into actual just study and practice, which give you AP in whatever thing you want to study and practice. And teaching will improve that as well.
How is that going to? Sorry, more questions. I actually haven't had any experience with the advancements point system yet, because I suck. So. I was just wondering, with the advancement points, like you study science, you can increase your science with those science advancement points. What about, like, we talked a little bit about learning new skills. What type of points do you put in towards learning a new skill, or will you put into learning a new skill?
Okay, so here's an example. You can buy science with just any points at all. Because generally how the advanced points is going to work, and this is something that's the future, it's not as currently how it works, is that there's a cost, and then it says, like, 25% of these need to be point type X, and 25% need to be point type Y, and 50% can be whatever you want. So that's the kind of spread you're looking at. So I want to buy genetics 2, right? And what it says in that is say, okay, you need to put in 25. It's like 200 points. You need 50 of those need to be genetics, specifically science genetics points. Or in the next 25, like the other 50 out of the 100, out of 200, is you need them to be science points. Any science points with it. And then the other 100 can be whatever you want.
Okay.
So what it is that it's actually very, very hard. It's more difficult to target something without spending precious time and energy specifically studying it. And the reason why that is important is that it encourages specialization. Wherein, if you want genetics 2, and you're going to be a dedicated geneticist or cyberneticist or robotics expert, is that fact that you specialize in that and then you bought with that is damn important. And not everyone is able to do that. Not everyone did that, which means you don't get into the situation in the rules where nobody is special and no one can do anything important, do something important. Because one of the two consequences of that is that the expert robotics engineer is not supposed to be spending his time making steel plates. He has higher priorities, so that you don't have this thing being large where there's a small group of people which can do everything. Because if you can do everything, your time is better spent elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So when new players come in, they can say, "Good God, another set of hands." Grab them and get them into the economy and the workflow and the flow of the game that way, instead of
this is
like,
a water pump.
That's perhaps the worst example. But more like, oh good, you have physics 1, engineering 1, you can make magnets. Okay, you can make magnets, and then this guy who's more skilled than you can go do something way cooler, but you can do magnets. And then, over here we're building this battle suit, but we have to make fucking magnets over here. So we want battle suit guys making magnets, working on a battle suit, and you can make magnets, and you're really important and all, and it's really great that you're making magnets. Meanwhile, because you're making magnets, we can do, the advanced players can do the advanced stuff, right? So everyone who has a pair of hands and time is important to the economic gameplay, as opposed to this blacksmith can crank out swords of destruction +5, and they're better than anything. So the fact you can make swords of destruction +1 is completely useless, and no one wants to hear about you, right? We'll just wait.
I had another question.
Sure.
Obviously, I wasn't there this game again.
Sure.
But we did talk at the last meeting. We had some people that were concerned about not feeling useful. It sounds like from what you're kind of describing, it sounds like it has improved. But I just wanted to clarify: did we have an overwhelming feeling of people actually feeling like their characters were useful in game and that they were actively participating in the role play, like people in general?
We've gotten some we in the after action surveys. We've gotten some people saying, "I'm not clear what these skills do," but generally I've gotten the response that people did feel engaged. The usual suspects, of course, have their inputs on what they think skills should do, which is fine, but. I haven't really seen a huge problem with that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that it's gotten better.
Yeah, there are still some things that don't do anything. But like I said, there's beta.
Right.
They're coming. They're coming. We swear, they're coming. And also, we've had people request to redo their characters. And there's one poor girl who was at this game who came out and she made this hardcore she just pounded away at the genetics timeline, and she remade her character to have more generic science skills rather than having genetics 3 or whatever she had, and she was really much happier after that, because she was just way too specialized to get involved at this particular point. But we were able to reset the character, and she was able to fix that. Now we got a couple requests to redo characters, but
Well, that's bound to happen.
Yeah, that's bound to happen.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the overwhelming or the overall feeling of the player base felt like they were more engaged and stuff, because I do think that's a really important aspect of the game, is not even just with the mechanics but also with the role play, pulling people in and actively making sure everyone's feeling part of the game. So I'm glad to hear that improved. It's awesome.
Todd, what's your feel on that?
I don't think I heard anyone say that they didn't feel like they were being engaged. But I might not necessarily. If they're not engaged, that means they're wandering around not talking to people, which means I wouldn't be talking to them to hear that they're not engaged. So it's
Good point.
Well, I'm talking more as head engineering. You might have gotten people going, help this person, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I know that I think the engineer team was all pretty well engaged. We had a cool project to work on at this last game with making the CP machine gadget that everyone seemed to be pretty interested in and enthusiastic about. I was not aware of people having that problem, but that doesn't mean it wasn't happening.
Okay. What about people that were? I know we did have talked about it a little bit at the last meeting about people for example, like the miners going out and mining and feeling like they're kind of cut off from the RP because they spent too much time mining or picking yams or at the forge. Did we have that problem again, or?
We did have the problem with people literally running themselves into the ground and having 5% hunger and stuff like that. A rule which was proposed that I might implement is that there are certain actions which are marked as strenuous or physical or something like that, where literally if your physical stats are below a certain point, you can't even do them because you're too dehydrated and tired or stuff like that. So we have
more realistic.
Yeah,
Forces roleplay.
Yeah, where they have to go back and they have to go get water and all this stuff, because not naming any names, you know who you are, who sat there spending 45 minutes on one mining because all your stats are 20.
I think we all know who that is.
Not who, it's they.
It's right, it is they. It's the whole lot of them.
Right.
So
you
Matt,
know who you are, and we're going to stop you.
can you add some functionality to the app so that when you get to a certain level, you'll get a message that gives you a prompt as far as this is how you're feeling, this is how you should act in roleplay?
I hope the giant red bar that says hydration 10 on the main screen would do that. Probably not. I mean, we can do stuff like that.
It's cool to have some explicit game effects for extremely low things, like maybe you cannot run even if a clicker is after you. That kind of stuff.
There's a good one. Yeah.
Should have drank more water.
Yeah.
I can't help but think about the Cthulhu LARP when you lose insanity or lose sanity. At each point, you get little prompts that say, "This is how you're acting now." It kind of helps with the role play. So I don't know if there's
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, me and Clint met at Alcon playing 80s punks.
We were the best fucking punks out there. It was
we
great.
were the best.
It was glorious.
Yeah, we were absolutely. You need to bring your friend back.
there is going to be a
Planetfall.
Yeah.
group of characters at this year's School Arc. So if y'all would like to redo them, they'll be there.
Nice.
There we go.
Those characters.
You want to see that? There we go. There's one for you.
Yeah.
Like, oi, oi.
Oi!
Oi, oi, oi. Ozzy,
Yeah,
Ozzy.
we met Baphomet and Shub Niggeroth and we kept talking about her tits.
I was perhaps we could even do like a little PSA or something about like how to roleplay exhaustion or when your stats get too low. Maybe at like the black boxing if we're still doing that or something pamphlet.
Do another one of those. It's
How to LARP.
few events. The LARP meetup has been the night before, so there was no black boxing, and I never got a chance to do one of those, and I would like to get in on one.
Okay, we can definitely try doing that in January. And I think a lot of people that was a lot of benefit. I think doing them before every game was kind of overkill. I think that was getting kind of old doing it every game, but having it regularly is definitely an option.
Especially with the new influx of players, I feel like
Yes.
it's important to do them at least every once in a while so they can get that experience. And even having like a little PSA at the beginning of, hey, here are some things to keep in mind while you're LARPing. Like when your biometrics get really low, you're really tired and really hungry and thirsty, and so you should roleplay that. Because for quite a few people, this is going to be their first LARP. And so while we may think that the giant red, 10% at the top is pretty common sense, if they're not used to role-playing in general, they might not even think of that. So
I will state with some confidence that all the people doing this should know better, though. And like I said, that combined with you're completely physically exhausted. You aren't minding salt anymore. I mean, the spirit might be willing, but
the body is not.
The body is not.
My body's not ready.
Yeah. Your status is exhaustion. If your mental stats get too low, you get ennui. And all you can do is do this. And listen to Joy Division and complain to your parents.
You gain new action swoon.
Swoon, yeah.
It's the only action you can take.
Right.
Now I'm thinking about Goth Taro with eyeliner.
He switches on his bandana for a black one.
Yeah, and he's got a black a black mining rig that's got like a gothy engraving on it now. Got it a Hot Topic. The administrator doesn't understand my pain. We love you, David. We love you tons. Don't get me wrong. David is a real trooper, by the way. I'm just going to put that out there. He does long suffering so well.
Yes, he does.
He does suffering like Mike Scalca does Slimy. And that's a high compliment. That really is.
Truly, truly.
So, what else we got?
Do we have any more questions on the Q&A, or?
Let's see.
I don't.
Will there be a way to activate a rig for a short time or something to give skill modifiers? Currently, if you carry a rig, it gives you those modifiers. We don't have stats for like doing charges and stuff. Eventually, we might make the 2.0 action screens might have the ability during an action to boost stuff and things like that. So that's a possibility. But
Oh, I got a question. So, as a player, if we want to put together a kick-ass prop, and it could potentially have some kind of in-game ramifications. I mean, I could think of, I think some folks created stills and hydroponics and such. I mean, should we get with the GMs beforehand and let them know, hey, this is what we're bringing to game to see if it can be incorporated into the game somehow, give bonuses, whatever? How does that work? And you had mentioned something last time about, the better the prop is, the more bonuses you can get.
Right.
As a player, how do we get that to happen?
Okay, so what's eventually going to be happening is, as part of the downtime game, you're going to start being able to own what are called world objects. World objects are things like the hydroponics farm, the stills, the various things that have QR codes that you scan to make work. And you're going to start owning those, and you're going to start being able to print out codes for them yourself.
Cool.
And one of the things that we can do with that is that if we approve it, the GMs can say, okay, this prop is like the design. It's not implemented, but the design as it stands now is that a device will be boosted, is the term. Like boost level 1 is you showed the basic level of giving a shit, right? You went out, you got yourself something that looked like a can, a reasonably sized can, and you stuck a copper thing in it, and it looks like a still, right? The second level, which pretty much all the ones that we saw last game qualify as, is that it looks like a legit still. It looks like, it's got all the right parts, it looks aesthetically correct, it looks like something which could be in the background on a movie set and be legit. Okay? Boost 3 is going to be the hardest to get, and that means the thing fucking smokes, it's rusted artificially, it looks 100% perfect. It's something that you could drop inside a Disney park and it would look like professional. That would be a level 3 boost. So, and if you do those things, you get bonuses to the time it takes to do things, you get bonuses to output. Obviously, that's just a whole bunch of design work that needs to be narrowed out, but the general idea is that, yes, if you go out and do a better prop and you show it to me, I can say, okay, this is the level that I'm assigning your prop. Print out the code, put it on there, and you're ready to go.
If that's still a work in progress, or is that something that can be done now?
That is a work in progress.
Okay.
That would be what I would call, it's not a core feature, but it's something that is going to be part of our continuous development schedule, which is a fancy word for once I get everything done to make everything that we've promised work, thing. I guess if we're going to go with an MMORPG as a metaphor, that would be part of our first expansion. That, along with things like cybernetic implants and stuff like that, would be something that we've gotten the core kind of. We have the cool LARP application idea working back to front, and now we're just going to start doing cool specific things. Did we lose somebody? We lost Sadie.
Sadie, we lost Sadie.
Oh no, we don't.
Sadie,
Back to us.
baby, come back.
Yay!
Hey, look, baby came back.
Yeah. I feel like I'm being judged with that vaguely sarcastic eye roll.
Right?
Which is weird because Sadie's not judgmental at all. She's probably the least judgmental the person here, and that's more saying about how not judgmental she is. I think the person more judgmental than me possibly in this room is Tyler, and his judgment is kind of silent.
Oh,
You don't live in the same town as him. He is not silent with his judgment.
Oh no, not at all.
Listen here, you little shit.
I imagine Adam, but like
Alright,
ramped up to about
what else?
1,000%.
Yeah, my undivided attention, guys.
Questions. Sadie, you're back. We can't really hear you, but you're back.
Maybe? Is she back?
She's frozen again.
I see her.
He's teasing us.
She's been placed in a cryostasis for a crime. She'll be reprogrammed.
Wax on, wax off. What?
Have you not seen Demolition Man?
Don't
No, I
feed the
haven't.
Malagoi.
Oh my god. You don't know about the 3 seashells?
Okay, to be fair, none of us know how to use the damn things.
Yeah, okay, but you have to know about them. Demolition
Sure.
Man is a way better movie than has any business being 90s action Wesley Snipes versus
Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone.
And it's
action
amazing.
play. It is absolutely amazing. It is like
So good.
I don't know if Columbia University got to redesign Southern California, and not like the faculty, like the students. San Angeles. Happy Joy Day, sir. What seems to be your boggle? Salt is bad for you, therefore illegal. It's a good example of what I call cyber prep. Sadie, do we have you back yet? Okay, let's get moving. So overall feedback on last player council meeting, how things are working as far as governance goes, all that. Guys that are watching, please feel free to drop questions in QA about how we might do things better on an OOC level, or if there's any kind of behavior or conduct issues that need to be brought up. Oh, we have a question.
I do want to stress, again, just for everyone watching, and we'll post it up after this meeting, that we were elected by you guys, Sadie, Clint, and myself. We are here for you. If you ever have any questions or concerns about the game, whether it's in-character stuff or out-of-character stuff, we're here to help you as much as we can. So please feel free to message all of us, even if you're, you've never, met us in person before and you're just like, well, I know they're my player council, but I'm a new player and I don't really know them. We're not intimidating. We're not going to bite. Please send us messages. We're here for you. So.
Yeah, the important thing to emphasize is that Emily, Clint, and Sadie are like, they don't answer to me. They answer to you.
We're the bomb diggity.
Yeah. They are awesome in their own right, but they work for you. Obviously, there's limits on that, but they're there to serve you. They're not my small. They're like Todd and Tyler, and they're not my minions, right?
Yeah, we're not staff. I'm just a
union
player.
Bosses.
I prefer the term
bosses.
Yeah, we're just players. I'm just a player like all the rest of you guys. And the only difference is the fact that you guys decided to put us in the same council and say, yeah, they're kind of cool, so we'll have them, be our liaison. So
Right.
We're here for you guys.
They give us that wonderful patina of democracy that is so critical for these dictatorships. One question that came up about doctors handing off people, what are the rules for that again? Actually, I'm thinking about altering that rule to make it somewhat easier, where we changed the system in the new app so that the person who gets wounded has the number for how bad the wound is, and when a person scans it, their skill affects that. But you might have noticed when you scan people now, it says, depending if you have the medicine skill, it tells you, or the physician skill, it tells you, or the first aid, that you that this seems like a bad wound, but this seems like a kind of alright wound with various level of specificity. And then if you have diagnostic medicine, it gives you like, this is like explicitly death is possible, or this is very serious, or this is serious based on that number. So probably what we're going to change the rules is that first aid, instead of being able to take over, it's like a number between 1 and 1,000 which is generated. What you can do is they say if it's below like 50, right, which is going to be 1 out of every 20 wounds, the first aid person could just treat it. And it can go from like 100. With first aid 3, it's like up to 200. So minor wounds they can just treat. But anything more complicated than that, they can't even touch, as opposed to doctors, which can treat all wounds. And I think that'll be a little bit. It's going to be useful. It's not first aid important, and it is kind of. But there's this like 1 out of every 5 times, even the best first aid person can't even do anything except for administer first aid. And I think that'll be a good change. That'll help like effectively be the same as loosening up, because it loosens up like the triage flow that goes on in game.
is there any plan to take whims that have been disabled by melee strikes and actually involve the app in treating those in any way?
Yeah, we keep putting that off, don't we? We can just put into like the first aid or the physician skill. You can just say treat broken limb, and it'll be like a 2-minute action or something. That'll be the easiest way of doing that. We also one of the features that we want to include in an upcoming one is the lingering wounds idea. This will make things like surgery more important, because if you get into lingering wounds, like your arm is broken, right, and needs to be reset. You're not bleeding out anymore, but you can't use your arm until you get that fixed. And to fix that takes a certain level of expertise. Or, I got whatever might go on. And we can start elaborating on that. It might be fun to make people permanently lose eyes and things like that, but that's...
I think that's an excellent idea.
Who volunteers?
I need both mine to be able to shoot something, so...
Nah, you gotta close one anyway when you pull the trigger.
Yeah, explicitly don't. Come on.
I don't know about you guys, but
people.
we shouldn't close your eyes if you guys are shooting guns. Just saying.
You already got 4. You can.
I'm amused by people assuming that the volunteers are anything but a courtesy.
You weren't volunteered. You were voluntold.
Very strongly being voluntold. Yes.
Okay. Get the knife out. Come on.
So Nova came in a scalpel, please.
Suddenly Morgan bursts in the room. I heard somebody gets to lose an eye!
Injuring my character?
Meanwhile, Harrison bowls her over and shoves her to the side. Not today, it's my turn! As Sarah twitters in the corner gleefully. All right. It's the annual running of the Nords. Who wants to roleplay a permanent debilitating injury? All right.
That's so Nordic.
Yeah. So to get to the final answer to your question, yes, we're going to be altering the first aid thing to reflect kind of what that rule was in the in the alpha phase. It's still written the way it was in the alpha, but we're going to switch it over to being something similar, but easier to implement and deal with. Anything else, guys? Anything else?
I'm good. Y'all answered my questions and the concerns that I'd heard. I guess if anybody thinks of anything else or has other concerns that pop up that we need to discuss, just reach out to one of us or to staff. And I don't really have anything else to talk about, honestly.
Don't underestimate how useful these people are, because most of the time new players have questions about culture and expectations, and often the player council has just as good or better grasp of that than we do.
Yeah.
Because they're in the shit. So, and they don't have any inside track, or they didn't write any of the rules, so they know what it is to live them. So.
I look forward to my other player council members actually showing up to game.
Yes. I will definitely be there if I have to walk. Like, I will be there.
Hey now.
Hey, Emily, it's okay. I'll walk with you.
Sounds good.
It's only like a 30-hour walk. We're good.
We can make it.
If people need rides from Austin, I'm here.
Yep.
So
No,
let's go kidnap Emily next time if she says she's not coming, okay? We'll just drive up there. We'll just grab her ass.
No, we'd never do that.
Emily, I think we're gonna get kidnapped.
I'm okay with that.
Kidnapped. All of the knack rats are getting kidnapped.
Knack
School,
rats.
at work, we
Great.
don't give a shit. We're grabbing all of y'all and hauling you
Give
I
me time to
said
pack,
that I
at least.
tried showing up with a shotgun to like force people to roleplay, come out and roleplay, but I ended up just walking away with $10,000 and a few kilos of pot.
Welcome
We're
to
gonna-
Planetfall.
Them the real blacks, put bags over their heads, beat them up a little bit, throw them in the back of my car, and just not say anything until we get to the
Okay,
side.
I like it.
Only if along the way you drug me up.
Yeah, it'll be so Nordic.
Okay,
That's so
okay.
Nordic.
So Nordic.
Tyler is just trying to get out of having to pay for this kind of treatment.
Darn it, you got him. I wasn't going to say anything about
Hey,
extracurricular
your coach is so
activities,
gentle.
but
Yet gentle, yet it seems like you've done this before.
Hey, that was one time.
It only takes once. All right, I think we've officially entered the land of Goofy. So thanks for everybody for watching. Last call for questions. I'm giving you 10 seconds.
I would give it maybe a little bit longer than that because I think there is a delay between us and them.
Fine, you and your reasonableness.
9.
All right.
What's your safe word, Matt?
My safe word is trigger warning.
I
Because
can
it's
get into
something I
that.
would never say in normal conversation.
I'm sorry. Did somebody say trigger? It's, what? I can get into that. We don't.
Yeah, this is how enforcers give trigger warnings. I pull the trigger, that's your warning.
I'm gonna use that in game now.
Right, bitch. Fuck that guy in particular. All right, I'm stopping the broadcast real quick, and we'll do some wrap up. All right, thanks for watching, guys.